They're so large and they're so dramatic and magnificent. They are highly conscious animals. They have self-awareness. They think. They have intellectual capabilities that rival ours.
So are you protecting whales in a certain area, or are you protecting them all over the world?
How do whales help our ecosystem?
What do you do most of to help the whales?
My name is Sena, and I'm 13 years old. So today I'm here to show you this movie, Sonic Sea, which I find really inspiring. Every time I watch it, I want to really go out and make a difference. So I hope it's going to make you feel the same way. The movie covered 3 issues: shipping, sonar, and seismic. And I would like to, for most of our discussion, I would like to focus on the seismic issue because there is something that you can do about it, something that I've done, and it's relatively easy. So in a couple of minutes, you're going to split up into groups. And in those groups, you're going to focus on the seismic issue. So you're going to summarize that based on the movie and what you've previously read. And then also, you'll come up with what you can do about it, or what you think you can do about it. So you're going to do all that as a group. And then after that, you'll elect a spokesperson. And that person's going to have 1 to 2 minutes to tell everybody else what your group came up with.
We are searching harder every day for more and more oil everywhere. So if there is a technology to make it less abusive to the sonic world, then we should embrace that no matter what the cost.
Are there alternative technologies other than setting off a bomb every 9 seconds that are available to us today? And the answer is, you bet there are. And you can be profoundly quieter than the explosion. For example, there's an emerging technology called marine vibrosize that doesn't produce an explosion. It produces a continuous, very low frequency sound that is thousands of times less intense and less invasive than an explosion. And it also produces a much higher resolution image of the Earth.
So seismic testing is used to find oil and gas deposits, and it can be really bad for whales because it can mess with their echolocation and it can displace them, like they could beach themselves, and also it could just harm other like fish and stuff like that.
And so we tried to focus on things we could do personally as individuals to help solve this problem. And we thought maybe we could use more alternative energy. There's solar energy and water energy and wind energy. Maybe it was like electric cars, electric stoves, because that would reduce the need for oil and gas, and so there'd be less seismic testing to find the oil and gas.
Don't use this testing while whales are present. Take advantage of new technology as it lets off quieter sounds and higher resolution of imagery.
Prevent it is to have boats go slower. We could design less noise when making propellers and have more efficient sonar. We could encourage people to make change, and we could raise money for research and use renewable energy.
Today I'm here to tell you about whales and dolphins, which I have been working to protect since I was 5. So I just want to make something clear before I start the presentation about whales and dolphins. So I have been interested in cetaceans, and cetaceans are whales, dolphins, and porpoises. And they're all very closely related. So whether I say cetaceans, whales, dolphins, I always mean these 3, whales, dolphins, and porpoises. I just want you guys to know that. So I'm going to start by telling you how I got interested in whales. So when I was 5, my mom got me this book. the story of Ibis. Ibis is a whale who lives part of the year off the coast of Cape Cod, and she was just, swimming around when she got caught in a fishing net. And the fishing net was wrapped around her tail and around her mouth. And the reason that was bad was because it was making it hard for her to swim. And it was making it hard for her to eat and hard for her to breathe. So Ibis almost died. But Ibis was really lucky and she got freed. And I really liked that story when my parents read it to me. So I liked it, so I asked my parents to read me the author's note, which they did. And the author's note said that most whales don't get freed. When most whales get caught in nets, they die. And that made me really upset. So I cried and whined for like 3 days. And at the end of that, my dad was pretty annoyed. So he said, well, if you don't like something, then do something about it. So I did. I started working to protect whales. I'd like to talk a little bit about what I do. So starting when I was about 6, I got involved with Cetacean Society International. And that is an organization based in Connecticut that works to protect cetaceans, whales, dolphins, and porpoises. So I got involved with them when I was about 6. Then, around the same time, I would do things like I would fundraise for them. They didn't really know, but I was. So I would bake muffins, and I'd sell them at my parents' farm. And I made about $180 from that, and I sent that to CSI to use for whatever they wanted. Other things that I did was I went to the local farmers market, and I handed out pamphlets telling people what I knew, what they could do to help. I also did public service announcements on the local radio stations. When I was 6, I talked about balloon bags and how they were hurting whales. And when I was 7, I talked about ocean acidification and what was happening. So that's what I did when I was younger. And then about a year ago, I started CSI Youth Group, or Cetacean Society International Youth Group. And so we're kind of located in my town, but we've got people in Connecticut. So we all work together to protect whales. We collaborate with NGOs, or non-governmental organizations. So that just means any organization that's not run by the government. So one of those is NRDC, the Natural Resource Defense Council. They work to protect the environment. So we collaborate with them. We meet with elected officials or politicians to tell them that things are important to us and what they can do to help us. We do public service announcements on the local radio stations to advertise events or whatever it is that we need to do. Another thing that CSI Youth Group is doing right now is working to ban plastic bags in Mansfield. Nantucket's already done it. That's great, and now we're going to work and try and catch up with that.
Why did you want to do this, and who inspired you to do this when you were little?
Well, that's a good question. So I got inspired because of the book I read. So I read the book Ibis, and that got me inspired. And then I never really stopped being inspired because, to me, it would feel wrong to let people put stuff in the ocean that's going to hurt the whales and then not do anything about it. So that's how I got inspired.
So if there's no rules or regulations placed on the seismic testing and company or oil and gas companies aren't going to use the vibroses, what's going to happen to marine mammals and other fish?
I don't really know, but the most likely thing, if we just kept doing what we were doing, my guess is that everything would die, and we would. It wouldn't be in an instant, but over time, everything would die, and then we'd have really big problems. So that's a good question. Yeah. So we need to work on it and make a difference.
What was the hardest thing in your job, and what was the easiest?
The hardest might have been meeting with the politicians because some of them are really hard to get on their schedule. One of the politicians, their scheduler had he was making me go crazy because he kept not doing what he said he was going to do. So meeting with the politicians was hard because I couldn't get on their schedule. But the easiest thing might just be going to fairs and things like that. It's not hard. It's a little tiring, but it's pretty easy.
Are you homeschooled or do you attend a regular school? And if so, how do you carve out the time to do everything you're doing?
That's a good question. I'm homeschooled. It works really well. So the first thing on my schedule every morning is whales. So whatever I have to do, whether I have to catch up on emails, whether I need to start a new project and get working on that, or just prepare for something, that's how I do it. Yeah, we homeschool.
All right, what's your next step in protecting whales and other marine organisms?
So right now, I think the main thing that I'm working on, my main next step, is working on banning plastic bags in Mansfield. That's what I'm doing, and it's a lot of work, but hopefully we're going to get that done. The other thing I do is I go and I tell people what I know, so such as this, coming here and telling you guys what I know, what you can do to help, that's another big thing that I do, that I also really like to do.
What do you do most of to help the whales?
I think it's educating people, talking to people. That's what I do the most, is have tables at places, do presentations, things like that. That's what I do the most to help whales.
How do whales help our ecosystem?
They help circulate things. So when they dive down, then when they come back up, they bring things up from the bottom. Or when they poop, that is really good for the whole ocean ecosystem. So really they're helping everything in the ocean stay alive, which in turn is helping us because, I mean, we eat fish, we eat things like that from the ocean.
Is there any whale that eats the most plastic?
You know, I'm not really sure if there is one. I think the ones that swim with their mouth open to eat are probably the most likely to get plastic. But I don't know that there is a whale that actually eats the most plastic.
In your eyes, what do you think's made like the biggest step towards that you've done towards changing protecting the whales?
Well, so far I think maybe meeting with the politicians has made the biggest difference because now some of them we met with were not aware of the issue that I was talking to them about. So I think that made the biggest difference because now they are aware of it and now they're on the lookout for it. And they know that their constituents are worried about it.
The problem is, in the ocean, we are injecting enormous amounts of noise. So much so that we are basically acoustically bleaching the ocean. All the singing voices of the planet are lost in that cloud of noise.
Now I'd like to talk about one problem that whales face, and that is plastic in the ocean. So Nantucket has already banned all balloons that can rise and plastic bags. So you guys are really far ahead. And this picture shows balloons going up in the air, which they can't do if you live on Nantucket. But the point really is that a lot of plastic ends up in the ocean. So this shows a picture of plastic in the ocean. And we all use plastic on a daily basis, right? It's really hard not to use plastic. It's nearly impossible. So the reason plastic is bad is because whales eat it. And this whale right here was found with these 30 plastic bags in its stomach. So there are some things that we can do to reduce plastic, to cut down on that. So I'm gonna give you some of those things that you can do at home. So one of those is, you know when you go to the store, you can get a plastic bottle with water in it. Well, instead of getting that, because those end up in the ocean very often, instead of getting one of those, get a reusable bottle. Then you can use it over and over and over again for whatever you need. One other thing I forgot to mention was if you're somewhere off Nantucket, if you're going on vacation, let's say, and you're going to the grocery store, they're almost surely gonna have plastic bags that they are gonna wanna give you to put your food in. Instead of doing that, bring your own reusable bag. Then they can put your food in that bag, or you can just carry your food out to your car and don't worry about that plastic bag because those are really bad. And a lot of them end up in the ocean. Another thing you can do is spread the word. This is me when I was 5 or 6, telling people about whales and what they could do to help. So everybody here can spread the word, whether it's on social media, whether it's just walking up to your friends and family and telling them what you know, telling them what they can do. It all matters, so make sure you're working. Make sure you're doing that. And before we end, I wanted to share this quote with you from Robert Swan, who was an explorer and environmental leader. And it says, "The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it." And it's true, because if we all sit back and we're all like, oh, somebody else is going to save the planet, we don't need to worry about it, then nothing's going to happen. Because if we all do that, then we've got a really big problem. So that's why I want everybody here to get up and, not now, but sometime, get up and do something. Work to make a difference, because it's not even just about saving our planet. It's also about saving our future. So go out there and make a difference, because you can all make a difference, no matter how old you are. So now I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you are interested, you'd like to get more involved, you can contact me. Your teachers have my contacts, and if you have questions, I would be happy to answer them.